Thanks for tuning into this video. I want to look at the competence of senior police officers in the final fourth part. We're using Norman Dixon's competence theory. Dr. Stephen F. Myler, Ph.D., reviews what is happening now. Now, I have done videos on police incompetence before, but they have generally related to individual cases. What I want to do today is widen the net a little bit and look at the competence of senior officers as a whole. Now, I don't want to go into the systemic stuff today. That's something we've covered before. I just want to look at the competence or otherwise of senior officers in general terms. Is there anything to worry about? You decide. Are things changing with higher education? There seems to be a definite trend in higher education amongst police officers, but there's a big caveat to that. I'm going to refer to the research by the College of Policing here, and they talk about the effect of degree education on police officers. Now, there are two broad groups of officers that they define here. They refer to the common bobby, so the rank-and-file police officer, and then they talk about senior officers. Now, it's important to recognize that the data here relates to those police officers who joined the service after the introduction of the Policing Education Qualifications Framework, the PEQF, in 2020. So, this isn't about senior officers who have been grandfathered in under the old regime. It's about the new police officers who are entering the service. And these figures show that 78% of those new police officers are degree educated. 16% are working towards a degree and only 6% do not have a degree or aren't working towards one. So, that's a massive change from the past when you could join the police without any academic qualifications at all. But, as the College of Policing itself points out, this doesn't mean that all police officers are now graduating from university. What they're saying is that there are three main routes of entry for new police constables. The first one is the most common one. It's the Police Constable Degree Apprenticeship, PCDA. Under this scheme, a recruit is employed as an officer right from the off, and they earn a salary and they complete a 3-year degree apprenticeship. Training is a mixture of on-the-job policing and academic study, and it's usually done in partnership with a university. The second one is the Degree Holder Entry Program, the DHEP. This is for people who already have a degree in anything. They go through an intensive 2-year training program, and they get a graduate diploma in professional policing practice. And the third one is the pre-join degree. This one is less common because you complete a 3-year professional policing degree at university before you apply to a police force, and you don't get paid while you're redoing the degree. So, moving on to senior officers. Well, as I say, the PEQF came in 2020, and that's a relatively recent development. So, we're not looking at a situation yet where all of the senior officers have had to comply with it. And it's worth noting too that the definition of a senior officer in this research is anyone ranked from chief constable down to sergeant. So, that's quite a broad swathe of officers. And the findings here are that of those senior officers in the sample. 39% had a degree at the point they joined the police, and 43% had gained a degree after joining. So, 82% of senior officers either entered the police with a degree or gained one afterwards. The remaining 18% don't have a degree. Now, the College of Policing say that this suggests that although there is an increasing trend towards higher education in policing, most senior officers still don't have a degree. And again, they qualify this by saying that's not necessarily a bad thing. But interestingly, they also say that for the majority of officers, a degree is not required to perform the duties of their role. So, that raises another question. If the majority of officers don't actually need a degree to do their job properly, why do we insist that they get one? That question alone is enough to start a debate. But moving on to current leadership development, what about the senior officers of tomorrow? Well, the College of Policing says that many of the current leadership and command courses have built-in academic elements. So, it is not necessarily the case that a senior officer has to have a degree in order to take these courses. Here's what they say. Aspiring chief officers must successfully complete the Strategic Command Course, the SCC, within 5 years of the course launch in September 2020. Of the 173 participants on the first 3 courses, 55% held a degree-level qualification. Now, the Strategic Command Course is described as being highly academic and rigorous, and it covers strategic thinking, public sector leadership, and ethical discipline. So, that's the sort of picture we have at the moment. We have a situation where the vast majority of new police officers are degree educated. We have a situation where most senior officers either joined with a degree or gained one thereafter. But then we have this anomaly where the College of Policing says that, for the majority of officers, a degree is not required to perform the duties of their role. So, it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on that. Police commissioners, do they make a difference? Now, I've talked about police commissioners before. I've talked about the role they play and the powers they have. And you can watch that video in the description below. But really, it's worth looking at the role of the commissioner in more detail, because they clearly have the power to make a difference. In fact, there is probably no one person in the force who has the power to make as much difference as the commissioner. But how do they do it? Well, here are a few ways in which a commissioner can make a difference. First of all, there's the strategic and directional control. The commissioner sets the strategic vision and the priorities for the entire force. And this is perhaps their most significant power because it affects how every officer does their job. The commissioner can direct the force to focus on things like community policing, restorative justice, or tackling institutional bias. This affects the way that every officer works, regardless of their rank. Then there's the control over senior appointments and promotions. Now, the commissioner can't really tell individual officers how to do their job. They don't have that kind of control, but they do have significant control over the senior ranks, because these senior officers are the ones who will be tasked with implementing the commissioner's vision. So, for example, the commissioner will appoint their deputies and their assistants. And they will also have a big influence over the selection process for promotion boards. That means that a commissioner can put their own people in place, people who share their values and their priorities. And finally, there's the influence over professional standards and culture. The commissioner can use their position to help set the standards expected of every officer in the force. Through their public statements and internal directives, the commissioner can influence the way every officer behaves. For example, if a commissioner is serious about tackling institutional racism, they will make that a priority for the entire organization, and every officer will have to work within that framework. Of course, a commissioner doesn't have unlimited power. They are constrained by institutional resistance, so the status quo, the senior officers, the rank and file, they can resist change. They might not want to change the way they do things, and a commissioner has to navigate that. They're also constrained by the law. They can't simply fire senior officers or break the rules. And finally, they're accountable to politicians, either the mayor or the Home Secretary. So, if things aren't going well, they can be removed. But nonetheless, a commissioner has significant power to drive change and raise standards across the entire force. Thanks for watching this video. Please remember to support the channel. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Share it with other people. You can follow me on social media and I'd appreciate your support. I will see you on the next video. Take care. Edited and written by Dr. Stephen F. Myler, Ph.D.